This one was shipped in from a viewer. It's a camcorder that's got a problem. This one's a Panasonic Mini DV camcorder. Complaint on this is it eats tape and it's making strange noises. So we're going to take this one apart and see if we can come to a solution with this one. This is a Panasonic DV900 Mini DV camcorder. It was sent in for me to take a look at. Apparently it's not working. I'm just observing what the mechanism is doing at the moment. Okay, that part is opening and closing okay. I just want to look and see what's going on with the mechanism. So lift the strap out of the way. I want to take off this lid if I can. Well, the lid doesn't come off on this one as I thought it would. There's a screw that's holding it down over here and I can't reach it. So let's take a look at some of the other access ports that we have. Let's take, there's a cover that comes off here. This is probably for adjusting the tape path, which it is. You can see the tape path down through here so that the tape guides are accessible. That's actually quite brilliant that they made the tape path accessible without taking the entire camera apart like some. Let's see if the tape guides themselves are actually loose or whether they're tight. Do not appear to be falling out loose, which is good. So I guess what I have to do on this one is I'm going to have to take the side cover off of it. Now, I haven't opened up many Panasonic camcorders. In fact, this is probably the first one that I've ever opened, because we didn't do work on Panasonic cameras where I worked at the time. We just worked on Sony. Or I shouldn't say we didn't work on Panasonic. We didn't work on Panasonic DV camcorders. We only worked on the Sony DV cameras. And that's because Panasonic wouldn't let us work on them, like they did with their CD players. See, that should load up, but it's not. Interesting. I wonder if it's a switch that's at fault. I bet there's a switch that's going bad. Like their CD players of the day, in order to be certified to work on the camcorders, they required a very extensive outlay for their specialized jigs and stuff, and that was something that the boss wasn't going to pay for, and I certainly wasn't going to invest thousands of dollars for test equipment and so forth that I would never ever see a rate of return on the equipment. That was part of the problem, that they wanted us to invest thousands of dollars for equipment in order to service specific pieces of equipment. Let's just the battery come out of here. But there we go. But the return on them was so long. Like, you know, you basically would spend thousands of dollars worth of test equipment, and the repair on a camcorder was maybe $100. So you had to fix a hell of a lot of camcorders to make back the investment, and I wasn't willing to do it, and the shop wasn't willing to do it. We figured if Panasonic wanted us to warranty service their camcorders, they should be the ones that supplied us with equipment. So it was kind of a catch-22 because the test equipment was very expensive. Sony, on the other hand, didn't make us buy special test equipment, special jigs and stuff. We could still service equipment. Panasonic, though, to say they were quite strict as to what test gear the service people had, and if you didn't have the test gear, they would not authorize you to repair equipment. So we didn't. We just sent the Panasonic cameras off to them and let them worry about it. Which I was actually more than happy to do because I had enough stuff to work on. I didn't need to complicate my life. Of course, there's a screw hiding here. What totally amazes me, though, is that people want to fix this stuff all these years later. Wonder if this one has to come out. Somebody's got to hold this together. I'm just going to try putting a tape in it and just see what it does. That part opens. Watch this thing work. F02. So there's an error on here. Did the tape thread? It looks like the tape threaded. So it's not threading the tape properly. A mechanical problem. See, it ate my tape. So there is definitely a problem with this unit, and I just ruined the test tape. Find that out. I'm still no closer to getting this thing apart, though, because I just don't know how it comes apart. There's a screw in here that goes in from this side, but I have to figure out a way to get to that screw to remove it. Oh, there's 3 more screws right here. I bet you if I take these 3 screws out, this side panel will lift off, and then I can probably get to the other screw that's holding the cabinet together. I think, maybe. Remove these 3. Okay, now will this piece lift off? I'm curious whether this piece will lift off. Once I remove those 2, well, this piece will lift out, that's for sure. I can unplug this plug here. and these other two plugs over here. Okay, that comes off like that. Now, the lens probably lift out now. Maybe not. There's another screw here. What does this one hold in place? Does this hold the lens in? This camera came in with a note that said I've been out to my camera to see if you can repair it. It doesn't play or record tapes. When a tape is ejected, it makes a whirring sound and likes to eat tapes. I know you said you might not be able to fix it, but thanks for your time. Well, I might not be able to fix this one, that's for sure. I might not be able to get this one apart. I'm not having much luck right now so far. I can see there's at least one screw right back here that's holding this, that's securing this side cover to this bracket. But how to get at that thing? It's almost like the lens has to be removed to access it. Oh, that little circuit board just unplugs. Now what happens? Will this drop down? Ah, okay, that comes out like that. I put this screw back in just so the circuit board wouldn't fall out, but I'll take it out again. Pop this board out. Okay, now if I slide this forward, looks like this board will lift out with the camera. What a stupid design this is, I tell you. It looks like this whole piece will slide out as one. Should slide out as one piece. I'm looking to see if there's anything catching in there. I think this whole piece slides out as one block. And then I can get to the screw behind here. But it's really, I mean, this is just a joke. Unlike the Sonys and the Canons, which come apart pretty simple, this one here is like that. Okay, now I can get to the screw that's hidden in here. Remove that screw. Maybe there might be some more too as well. But once that one's removed, the chassis might lift out as well from this side. Unbelievable. We're still no closer getting to the mechanism. Looks to be there's another screw holding this in place. There's one more screw down here. I wonder if this one is holding anything in place. That lifts this bracket out. When this bracket comes out, will the mechanism lift out now? Another screw down inside here. You know, this one certainly is not one that's designed to be repaired. That's pretty obvious. This one here was designed as a throwaway. If it breaks out of warranty, they would just toss it. If it broke down under warranty, they would just replace it with a new one. I'm pretty confident that that's how this one would have been handled. There's no way that someone's going to spend the time required to take one of these things apart to repair it. I've been working on this thing for over an hour and I don't even have it apart yet. I see two more screws. One is down here and the other one is way in far down in here. I wonder if that holds the chassis in place. I've already removed this one. That pulls the chassis, it looks like. Well, still attached down here. We gotta lift out the connector here. Looks like for the power supply board. How is it attached? It looks like it lifts out this way, like that. Okay, Jesus. What an absolute joke this is. Like, who thought of this design? I can say that I've seen some pretty piss poor designs before. I don't think I've ever seen anything that's this bad. You know, not only when the unit is apart, I can't test it. I can't turn it on. I can't test it. This one here, the upper drum doesn't spin. It's a 3-piece drum, kind of like the old Beta. Look at the head drum on this. It's kind of unique. The upper portion doesn't spin, just the center portion. I see a cracked gear. You guys see the cracked gear I'm talking about? Like the camera focus, there's a crack in the take-up spool right down there. I wonder if that's why it's eating tapes. When it goes to rewind the tape back in, something's not turning. I'll apply power to the loading motor and we'll wind out the compartment. Give it about 2 volts to the loading motor here and watch what it does. Wrong way. What I want to see whether the capstan motor is stuck, because the capstan motor is what turns the take-up and supply spool. Or is there any teeth that are broken, or any sand or anything that's stuck in any of the teeth? There's certainly a crack. You can see it right here. Whether that is affecting the operation or not, that I don't know, but I do want to see this mechanism. I want to take this circuit board out. I want to get to the capstan motor, if that's what I want to check out and see whether it turns. So we'll just take out this screw. And flip down the board. I undo this connector that's in the way, and now I'm able to flip the board down a bit. I want to see whether the capstan motor will turn, or whether, oh, the capstan motor is not turning. This might be the problem here. This should be turning freely, and as you can see, it's not turning at all. So it could be the capstan motor itself is bad, or more than likely something is jamming under here on the belt. I'll undo these connectors so that I can pull the board right out completely. This is probably for the dew sensor. I think that's what that connector's for, is dew. Yeah, that's the dew sensor. It mounts right here. Okay, well, that board's out of the way. I want to take this bottom cage off. I want to get to the capstan motor itself. Okay, yeah, this is stuck. There is a toothed belt that goes around here, and you can see that the tension's on here. Not so much the motor side, but the tensions down here. Either the mechanism's gummed up or something's jamming it. Remove this plate. There certainly appears to be something to do with this cog here, this gear right there. And that will be right underneath this plate. If I can get to it, I don't even know how to take this apart. I don't see any screws that holds it in place. It could be this gear itself could be the problem. No, that doesn't, well, that turns, but it's really stiff. One of these gears here almost feels like the lubricant on it is dried up on one of these gears. If we look down here, we'll see the pendulum gear, and if I turn the capstan motor by hand, you can see the pendulum gear moving and meshing with the appropriate supply or take up, but it's certainly jammed. It may be right down here on this gear here on this shaft. One of these shafts is stuck, like the lubricant's dried up on it. I'm just trying to figure out the way to take this thing apart to get at it. It's certainly not, like Sony's are pretty easy to take them apart, but this is a whole new level of complex. I mean, really, this is bad. It's just so tight in here. There's really not much to do, and it's certainly not designed to be taken apart. I'm going to try and put some oil just onto this gear here, a little drop onto the mounting post, and see whether just the smallest amount of oil. See whether it's on this actual post right here where the problem is. Maybe it's this one that's sticking. It's not that one. It must be one of the other ones that's stuck. See if I can get in here and get some lubricant into it. So with careful placement of a drop of oil, I got my pick underneath here. It's actually the gear that's in behind this one. There's a gear right here in the front, and there's another gear in behind it. That's one that the belt slips over, and it was that one that was gummed up. So I was able to get in here, get the pick underneath here, and get a little drop of oil into that bearing. And now, of course, the motor turns freely. There's no slipping and no skipping and no tooth belt, or the tooth belt isn't skipping teeth. It's turning freely now, as you can see. And when I turn it this way, I'll just spin it from this side, you'll see that the take-up spool will turn, and if I turn it the other way, the take-up spool turns, and there's no resistance now. So that might be all that was wrong with this one. It was just that that bearing got gummed up just from sitting around over the years, which is what happens with mechanisms. That's why if you've got a camcorder, a tape-based camcorder, it's always a good idea to run a tape through it. Even if you're not going to use the thing. Just put a tape in it, let it play, or run it fast forward and rewind. I recommend just put a tape in it, let it play for an hour, and then rewind the tape. Do that every month. Keep the mechanism free of debris. Keep parts that are supposed to turning, because once they seized up, that becomes a problem. I'm going to start to reassemble this unit now. Wish me luck. This was a real pain to get this one apart. I'm sure it'll be no easier to put this together than it was to take it apart. Even if it works, I'm not making any money on this one, that's for sure. But for the amount of time I've been on this thing for hours. Hours and hours and hours. This would have been, if this was in a shop, this would have been condemned like hours ago. So now I think I can start to put it back together. I'll start by loading the mechanism, put the loading motor on it, the power to the loading motor, and wind it back into place. Good enough. Alright, now I can start to put pieces back together. Went on like that, I think. It came off like that. With a couple of really short screws. This bracket goes on next, and then the board. And then the board goes in place. Thought I was missing something. Board clips in like that. And then I've got the little edge connectors to go in. Had a client call me today that I transferred their tapes. Another client called me today that I transferred their tapes to digital 3 years ago, and they are having trouble playing their digital file. I asked them if they got a backup on a DVD. Nope, didn't need it. I tell you, people that don't take advice to take a second backup, or that don't take their original USB stick, and as soon as they get it, Like as soon as they walk in the door with it, make a copy of it. The problem is this solid state memory is not guaranteed to last forever. USB sticks, SD cards, whatever, they store data by storing basically a charge in a capacitor. That's what it boils down to. You're storing your data in non-volatile memory inside a chip, and it's essentially just millions upon millions of microscopic capacitors that are either set to a charge of 1 or 0, or in the case of the really high capacity, could be set to a floating level between 0 and a certain voltage, maybe 5 volts. And it can be set to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and you've got 5 different state of charges. And then when you read it back, it measures what state of charge it is. The small capacity chips were either set to a 1 or 0, like full voltage or nothing. But the higher capacity chips, there's multiple steps that the voltage can be set to. And all it takes is for that capacitor to discharge just the slightest amount, and all of a sudden that voltage is not readable. And when that happens, good luck reading what's in what information's in there. This is now the second idiot. I'll call them idiots because I always tell people, get your material backed up onto multiple platforms. Don't just trust, a USB stick or an SD card. Back your data up onto a hard drive or something other than just that one medium. So this person, they've still got their tapes. So they want to bring me their tapes and have me redo it, and they have specifically told me that I'm going to do it for them at no charge. Whose fault is it that they didn't make a backup? Certainly not mine. I've got all my data backed up. Everything. Every video I've ever done on YouTube, besides the stuff that's on YouTube, which is obviously backed up for me. But I have copies of everything, and I have copies of all the raw footage for every video I've ever done. Right, I think I got all the plugs back in for this board. Now I have to get this back into the cabinet. Yeah, man, just trying to get these connectors to line up so that I can pop it back together. That one's on. Okay, I think I've got it. Put the headlight on so I can spot it in there and see what I'm doing. This is my new one that's got the very high intensity spot. Okay, that'll help me see right down inside here to put that screw in. There we go. Okay, that screws in. I got another one to go up top here. Okay, that piece is back in now. What else is I gotta do here? I got that plugged in. I gotta plug these two plugs in up here, and then I gotta put the camera module in and plug that board back in. This is the hard part, getting this thing to go back in without damaging anything. It goes in like this. Yeah, it's a stupid design, this camera. Really, it's a stupid design. You have to take all this apart to get the mechanism out. It's like... clips in like this. There's little clips that engage right through these slots like that, and then that slides back in place. There's two more of them at the back, which I hope are in place, because if they're not, then it won't fit. Oh, they're not in place there. Now they are. Okay. Now I can put these other screws in here to these rubber grommets to kind of hold the lens in place. Watch it not work after all this effort. Watch it still not work. That's always a possibility. It may not work. If it doesn't work when I get this all back together, I won't be taking it apart again. It'll just be, sorry, it's not fixable. I give it a shot, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, well, you can't say I didn't try. Okay, that part's done. Now what's next? Probably the left side panel. Got two connectors that have to go in down here. One of these is for, I think, firewire. No, one's for the display. The firewire's over here. One's for the display and one's for something else. Anyway, maybe they're both for the display. Anyway, there's two of them that's got to go in place. Okay, that one's in place. And the second clip. Enough to hold it together so that I can power it up and see whether it will whether it'll do anything. Okay, make sure that the battery release works, which it does. Okay, well, that lights up, that's good. So let's see whether it, okay, power comes on. All right, now it's opening. I haven't done anything. It just took it a few minutes to do something. Why is it not opening the cassette? Oh, there, it opened the cassette there. Okay, let's close this down. Will it close? It's closing. We should shut off because it's in the off position. And it should turn off. Okay, let's hook up the buttons, and then I'll try a tape, because obviously it's not going to do anything if I don't have the buttons plugged in. I won't be able to control it. So let's just plug the buttons in. Close that up. Hopefully they work. All right, power on, VTR mode. I've still got that F02 code error in here, so it may not work. It has an error code, which is what it had before. So there may be still a problem with this unit, but we'll find out when I close it up here. Incompatible tape. Oh, you know what? I bet it's recorded in HDV. Maybe not. What is it doing? Incompatible tape. What does that mean? F01. Well, it didn't eat my tape this time. Incompatible tape. That is just bizarre. Yeah, F01 is the code that's coming up again. I have no idea what that means on this. But it's giving me a message telling me I've got an incompatible tape. So I have no idea what that means. Why I have to open this a second time to make it eject. I'm not eating the tape anymore, but it's still not doing anything. I was looking down to see if the drum motor is spinning. I think I heard it spin up there. Yeah, the drum motor is indeed spinning up when I close it down. There it goes. You can hear it spin up. It's completing the loading cycle, and you can see the tape spools are turning. Both the tape spools are turning in there, so it's not You know, it's the tape transporters now appear to be working, but why is this thing giving me an incompatible tape message? So about the only thing I can think of is maybe one of the connectors is not all the way in. Well, I'll take the side cover off it again, and I'll take a look inside and see whether there's a connector that's not all the way in. That's about the only thing I can think of that could cause this error. But I'm not going to spend much more time on this camera at this stage of the game. It's pretty much to the point where I'm ready to wash my hands of it. I've spent more time on this thing than I should have ever to begin with. Because even though everybody says, I'll pay you for your time, take a look at it. Even if you can't fix it, I'll pay you for your time. I don't very often see anything. As I say, a lot of people are full of promise. Oh yeah, I'll look after you. I'll pay you for your time. If you just, can you just look at it? I'll pay you. You know, I'll pay you an estimate fee. Some do, but most don't. Especially when they're shipped in. They just say keep it. Okay, so that comes off again. I'll undo these two connectors. I'm just curious as to maybe one of the other ones underneath here is not pushed in properly. I think I had them all in, but I say I'm getting this strange message that says incompatible tape, whatever the heck that means. It may be that if one's just a little bit loose, that we're not getting a proper read. From some of the signals. Possibly the power connector wasn't inserted or seated correctly. I just noticed that the circuit board here actually has a screw that holds the circuit board into a ground, and without that screw in place, this circuit board here that holds the power supply is loose, and that may have resulted in when I seated the mechanism, it not making a proper connection on the power connector. So I just pulled the mechanism out again. It's actually not so bad once you've taken it out a couple times as to removing it. It's not as bad as it initially looked. Once you find the 3 screws that have to come out to hold the chassis in place, it comes out relatively easily. So it just drops back in just like this, and before I bolt it in place, I will put this base in because it goes in easier when it's put in as one piece before the mechanism is screwed down into place. We put this in like this, lift this up. That piece will slide in a lot easier before it gets bolted in place, just like that. One bolt that holds the chassis in over here, or one screw, and then the other 3 ones that hold the mechanism in place. Camera section goes in. These screws don't need to come out actually. Camera section can slide in just underneath this bracket. Gotta protect the ribbon cables, that's all. I'll try the side cover one more time, and maybe we'll get different results this time, and hopefully we do. Otherwise, I'm going to write this one off as a non-repairable, non-economical to repair unit, which it, you know, my time that I've spent on this thing today is probably worth, you know, $300 or $400 for the time that I've spent on this thing. If I'm charging out by the hour, because it's now almost 8 o'clock at night. I've been on this since about 4:30. Pretty much constant. I've only been taking the odd little break because I'm doing a tape transfer right now, and I've been going in and changing the tapes every you know, hour or so. And the rest of the time it's just been staring at this stupid camera. And there's been a lot of staring at this camera today, believe me. First, just to figure out how to get the stupid thing apart. That was part of the challenge, was just to take it apart. I guess I'll just try powering this thing up first and see whether it still comes up with that error message that tells me my tape is incompatible. Okay, VTR on. Incompatible tape. Okay, well, I don't know what to suggest on this now, but at this point I think I'm going to wash my hands of this one, because obviously there's something more wrong with it than just the mechanism is jammed. Not eating the tape anymore, that's for sure, but it's also not it's not accepting the tape. Okay, I got the unit all back together, totally no screws left over, but I can assure you that the results are going to be exactly the same. See, it's not opening properly either. Incompatible tape. Whatever the hell that means. None of the buttons do anything either. Menu brings up the menu. I'll probably go through this thing one more time off camera just to make sure nothing has been missed out on it. And I'll let you guys know if I do figure out why it's not working now. It's not jamming, so it should be working. And I already checked the plugs. Everything's all plugged in. And it's got F01 on the screen, whatever the heck that means. That's an error code. Before it had F02. Now it's gone to F01 and I get the incompatible tape message. That's a new one to me. Oh well, I'm gonna wash my hands of this one. I have no idea why it's doing what it's doing now, even showing incompatible tape when there's no tape on it. So I have no idea what's going on with this one. Anyway, that's this one for you. I'm done. I've had it with this one today. Thanks for watching. Bye.